Have you ever thought that the Great War could have been avoided had Serbia accepted the Austro-Hungarian Ultimatum in 1914? Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria was assassinated in Sarajevo in the summer of 1914 by pro-Serbian members. Here is how the Austro-Hungarian cabinet of war looked like. We want war, but we cannot defeat Russia if they support Serbia. Yeah, we need to back down and take that L. Hey guys, are we going to war? Right after the incident, Germany told Austria-Hungary that it would join a possible war against Serbia, giving the Austrians a blank check. Here is the reaction of the Austro-Hungarian cabinet of war. Aide! Woo! We go to war, baby! Wait, how can we justify it in a way for Russia not to join the war? Oh, I have an idea. No, wait. Oh. No. I've got it. Let's give them a list of impossible demands, and when they don't accept all of them, we go to war. Brilliant. As a result, Austria-Hungary handed Serbia an ultimatum of 10 points specifically designed to be rejected by Serbia, as this would make the country an Austrian client state. To the surprise of the Austrians, Serbia was actually willing to accept all of the points except the 6th one, regarding allowing Austrian police to operate in Serbia. So what happened historically is that Serbia rejected the ultimatum and we all lived a happy and prosperous life. Oh wait, a world war started that claimed the lives of about 38 million people, just because Serbia refused to accept the ultimatum. You may be surprised, but the Russians actually didn't support Serbia diplomatically in this incident. They told the Serbians to simply accept the unfair ultimatum and hope that in the future, the world would force Austria-Hungary to back down. Great diplomacy by Tsar Nicholas II of Russia. He seemed like a very competent leader. I wonder if anything bad is going to happen to him and his entire family in this scenario. Furthermore, the militaries of Russia and France were not ready to fight against Germany, which promised Austria-Hungary support in an upcoming conflict. Hence, why the future Entente also urged Serbia to accept the ultimatum. This is like an early appeasement strategy. Meanwhile, this was the mood in Britain. Hey Johnny, did you hear that we may be going to war? No, all the newspapers except Times have claimed that even if there is a war, Britain will not get involved. War? This is so 19th century. I doubt that anything serious would happen. While there was a diplomatic crisis, few thought that there was going to be an actual war, and even worse, a world war. The deadline for Serbia to accept the ultimatum was quite short, for about 48 hours. So Russia pressured Austria-Hungary numerous times to extend the deadline. Now, if you know your history, you will scream at me that Germany wanted war, as Russia was going to industrialize and France to mobilize. Had Germany waited for longer, their enemies would grow stronger. So a war was desired by the Germans by any means necessary. The Russians were aware that this crisis was used by Germany to go stronger, and Serbia accepting the ultimatum would make them a protectorate of Austria-Hungary. Russia also backed down in 1908 in the Bosnian crisis for the sake of keeping peace. But this didn't appease Germany, it only encouraged them. I completely understand this, but the narrative of the video is Serbia accepting the ultimatum, which was specifically designed to lead to war. While you may call this video unrealistic, let me try to answer the question on what would happen had Serbia accepted the Austrian ultimatum. I already made it very obvious that if Serbia accepted the ultimatum, the world war will not be prevented, but simply delayed. Europe was simply too tense for any war to be avoided, but delaying the war has massive implications. The Entente would be in an even stronger position if the war started in 1915 or 1916 due to the Russian industrialization. I want to show you these Serbian and Austro-Hungarian coins that I have from the Great War. This is 50 para coin from Serbia and it's from 1915, so it was used during the Great War. On the other hand, we have 10 helera from 1915, which are from the Austrian portion of the empire, as Hungary had their own currency, which is these 2 and 20 filera from 1917, again used during the Great War. Hope you learned something interesting, and now let's see what accepting the ultimatum would look like. This is the ultimatum that Serbia would be accepting. Serbia would cease its anti-Austria-Hungary propaganda, including in its school textbooks. Dissolve Narodna odbrana, whose goal was to protect ethnic Serbians abroad, mainly in Austria-Hungary. Serbia were to remove military and civil administration officers by the request of Austria-Hungary, but also allow Austria-Hungary to suppress the partisan movements in Serbia. The 6th point was what Serbia historically declined, but this time they would accept the Austro-Hungarian police to investigate the death of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. Serbia would allow for Mayor Vojislav Tankovic and civil servant Milan Ciganovic to be arrested, as they were named as partisans. The last 3 points don't really change anything, but what I just discussed really makes Serbia an Austrian client state. In this alternate history, the Austro-Hungarian law enforcement march into Serbia and investigate the death of Franz Ferdinand by any means necessary. This means that Serbs who have views against Austria-Hungary would be arrested on the basis that they must have also supported the assassination in Sarajevo. This is bundled with the fact that Austria-Hungary can pretty much censor and rewrite the school textbooks and edit and suppress publications regarding the Austro-Hungarian monarchy, meaning that the Serbian government would be left without any power in their own country. There is going to be a brief period of Austrian terror in Serbia, as the whole country would quickly become an Austrian protectorate. All of the intellectuals in Serbia would be purged and everything would be rewritten to glorify Austria-Hungary, so the future of Serbia is not looking too bright. This is as realistic as I can get, but there is still a lot of tension in Europe, and Germany is wanting to go to war, as their enemies are only growing stronger. As a result, I would have to forge an event that would spark this alternate First World War, which is of course unrealistic. By early 1916, the Russians would show that their industry is something to be feared, which would encourage the Italians to move closer to the Entente rather than to Central Powers. This is how this would go. The Entente is growing stronger, as Russia is getting to industrialize and France to update its military doctrine. Maybe we should switch sides and claim the Italian inhabited regions of Austria-Hungary. We should send them an ultimatum requesting these territories. But your majesty, what if they say no? Wait, that's illegal. As a result, the Italian king Victor Emmanuel III would feel more comfortable demanding Austrian Trentino and Istria, or threaten to leave the defensive alliance. In case of Italy getting these Austrian territories, we would get a scenario in which Italy joins the Central Powers, to which I already made a video and I will remind you to check it out later. In this scenario, we should have Austria-Hungary deny to give these territories to Italy, which would result in Italy to not renew their membership in the defensive Triple Alliance. I already mentioned that I'm going down a very unrealistic path, as historically the Great War started and I cannot use any other event than to create one myself for the war to start again. I would say that Italy would move closer to the Entente, as they believe that it's going to be the victorious side in the potential war, rather than the Central Powers. Germany will not allow for Italy to leave them and go to the enemy side, so there is going to be a massive diplomatic crisis yet again. I have no idea how this one would go, but we can have Germany and Austria-Hungary go to war against Italy, France and Russia. Serbia is an extension of Austria at that point, so the country may join the war. Grandpa Milorad, why are we going to war against Russia? Aren't they the saviors of Europe? They are, my grandson, but these Austrian scum came and now force our children to die in their conflict. We shall seek revenge and kill all the Austrians. But grandpa, in school I was told that Austria-Hungary are the good guys and that they did so much for Serbia. You, little. Even the peasants in Serbia have favorable views of Russia, and now they would be going to war against them and get mobilized. This is why I think the move by Austria-Hungary to force Serbia to join the war can become very disastrous, where there is going to be a Serbian uprising. Bulgaria can take advantage of the situation and declare war on Serbia, as they wanted to take control of Macedonia, but were unable in the First and Second Balkan Wars. This would result in a Central Powers Serbia and Entente Bulgaria, which is really interesting to consider. So these are going to be the sides of this European war. There is no way that any more countries would get involved, right? Hey Hans, look at this. Why attack France through the heavily fortified border and not just go around it? Interesting, we can also capture Paris. So, let us just invade Belgium. Yeah. Germany would ask Belgium for military access, and when the Belgians refuse, the Germans would invade and try to capture Paris. Also, Luxembourg exists, but they would be conquered rather quickly. But who cares about tiny and insignificant Belgium, right? Well, it's the British who are obligated to protect Belgium. As a result, the British will join the conflict fighting against Germany. Now let me zoom out so you can see the full situation. While the Germans have a superior military that would perform well in Poland and in Belgium, their only ally is Austria-Hungary. I doubt that the Ottoman Empire would join the suicidal war right away. They will wait and see how Germany does. Russia would still do their Galician offensive, which would be a success, as apparently the Austro-Hungarian soldiers didn't know what a grenade is. For some, it was their first time seeing a grenade while being on the front lines. Hey, Maximilian, what is this shiny piece of metal and why are the Russians throwing them at them? Austria would start by losing land, but also the Serbians would rebel and see some success in liberating the south of their country. The problem is that Bulgaria would start marching into the same region, so there is going to be a need for a treaty to be put between the two countries, so they can work together rather than to fight each other. The Entente would mediate the conflict between the Balkan countries, so I think it would be decided to grant most or at least half of Macedonia to Bulgaria. but the Serbians would get to form Yugoslavia, including Bosnia, Montenegro, Croatia and Slovenia. This I think is the most likely outcome of this scenario, as I want to dismiss my Bulgarian bias. Historically, Bulgaria has tried to take Macedonia in literally every conflict it has been a part of, so they'll try again even in this alternate Great War. The Entente were also historically willing to negotiate with Bulgaria and let them have Macedonia and compensate Serbia elsewhere had Bulgaria joined the Entente. Now that this issue is resolved, the most important question is how would Germany fare against Belgium and France. I would say that it's highly unlikely for Germany to achieve the same level of success as it did historically, which was to almost capture all of Belgium. In this alternate timeline, Brussels might never fall, and the Germans would be stopped east of the Maas River. As a result, important cities like Namur and Liège will never fall in this timeline. I bet that you can look at a map and know that the Central Powers are going to lose, which is very obvious, but the way they lose is the key difference and we won't get the same historical peace treaty. This is because due to Russia's mobilization, although I expect them to still lose a lot of land in the future, the Bolshevik Revolution is unlikely to succeed. This means that Russia will be among the winners of the Great War, being able to gain land in the peace treaty, although the country would be still really unstable. Historically, Romania joined the war when Russia had an offensive into Austria-Hungary, which I think would still happen. Russia would start losing the Baltics, but due to a request from France to ease pressure on the Western Front, Russia will attack Galicia and capture a large part of it, encouraging Romania to join the war on the side of the Entente. Greece is unlikely to join the conflict, as with the absence of the Ottoman Empire and Bulgaria, there isn't a lot for the Kingdom of Greece to gain from this conflict. The Western Front would stabilize, and the Germans would fail short of their goal to capture Paris and knock France out of the war. Historically, the mastermind of this plan, Alfred von Schlieffen, had suggested that the most important thing for this to succeed is to keep up the right flank. The Germans didn't follow this plan fully, which resulted in trench warfare in our scenario. Having a stronger France in this timeline would mean that a breakthrough is possible in the right flank of Germany. So an encirclement would be possible, resulting in a German retreat from Belgium. I'm yet to mention Italy, which is on purpose. I don't think that they will do too much against the Austrians, as they were historically pushed back a little and both sides were just sitting idle on the mountainous front lines. Speaking of Austria-Hungary, I call them Austria in the last sentence on purpose, as the Hungarian portion of the empire is likely to rebel. This is because they would know that they would lose a lot of territory, mainly in Transylvania and in the Western Balkans. The Hungarians were dragged into this conflict by the Austrians, who in this timeline were not willing to give up some of their territory and secure Italy as an ally. I can see the Hungarians rebel nationwide, as if they don't, they would lose half of their empire. As a result, I think that Hungary switching sides is plausible to happen, considering the Russian and the Romanian advances into their core territory. By that time, the Serbian rebels would consolidate control over the entire country, except for Belgrade, which was located on the border with Austria, so it's unlikely to fall anytime soon. In case of a Hungarian betrayal, which is increasingly more likely to happen, the Central Powers would just collapse in 6 months after that, as Austria would lose Serbia immediately and Russia would liberate all of Galicia and maybe Czechoslovakia. Germany had failed to advance deep into France and a lot of the fighting would now be happening on its home soil. This is why I think the German army generals would advise Wilhelm II to surrender and try again in the next war. In the peace treaty, I would assume that we would have a similar outcome, with France getting Alsace-Lorraine and a protectorate over the Saar, and Belgium getting Eupen and Malmedy. Italy would get their claimed territories, which were historically promised to them in the Treaty of London, which includes a good chunk of Dalmatia. Now, Serbia would have technically lost the war, so allowing them to form Yugoslavia isn't too realistic. Maybe there is an independent Croatian country, but I cannot predict any of that. A moral question would appear, as was Serbia on the losing side, or were they forced to join Austria? It would be decided that Serbia was a victim of Austrian aggression before the Great War, so they would be allowed to expand, but cede Macedonia to Bulgaria. Romania will take Bukovina, but not the entirety of Transylvania, as I think they would get the majority of southern Transylvania, with Hungary keeping the rest, but also parts of Vojvodina. Austria-Hungary would be split up, as the Hungarians didn't want to be part of the empire anymore. Russia would annex Galicia and create a favorable government in Czechoslovakia, so we may see a Czechoslovak monarchy with a Russian nobleman in this alternate timeline. Hungary would lose most of Slovakia, but be allowed to keep Hungarian majority in southern Slovakia. Austria would mostly look the same in the peace deal, but also lose Burgenland to Hungary, further humiliating the Austrians. They would try to create a state of German Austria, which they did historically, with the goal to unite with the rest of Germany, but like in our history, they would also fail. Going over to the elephant in the room, it's likely for Russia to annex the Polish majority regions in Germany, but due to internal pressure, the Russian nation would have to liberalize and give partial autonomy to its minorities, mainly in Poland. The last time that Poland was given autonomy, they rebelled against Russia, so I have no doubt that this would happen again. But for the time being, these are the borders of Europe, with the Ottoman Empire surviving the Great War, but they are still prone to collapse in the near future. This is unless you check out this video where the Ottoman Empire doesn't collapse. Click on the video to see what I came up with, and I hope to see you there.